in terms of sefiros, there's three different groups that people do know about: the right, the left, the center. We've spoken about this. We've talked about the idea that the right is the idea of beginning, of kindness, of expression, of like moving something outwards. It was the idea of Avraham Avinu, masculinity, chesed, kindness, newness, it works in the world of chesed. It also even works in the world of chachma, of wisdom, which I'm actually going to come back to in a second. In terms of ideas, we also said, right, that you have a thought that first has that first flash of energy or thought, and then you have the left side, which is the side that is the counterbalance, which we understand as gvura, which is strength. It's the idea of like, or bina, which is understanding. It's the idea of taking the first energy, which is the idea, the beginning, the data, the start, and then moving it further in. It's like developing it. The 9 months of pregnancy. It's taking the beauty of an idea and working hard in order to bring it to life. And then finally, the idea of either, you can call it Yaakov or Das or Tiferes, is the middle, is the balance. We have Avram on the right, we have Yitzchak on the left, and then you have Yaakov in the middle, is the balance where we had the first idea, we had on the right. On the left, we had the idea of the development of that idea, or the development of the data, or taking the kindness, and then like, doing something with it, making it real. And then the birth of it is Yaakov. It's the child. It's after the long journey of pain, of struggle, to now see this beauty, this central being, or this wholeness that you can only understand in the context of the whole thing. If you remember, the term Tiferes is beauty. So beauty is something that comes with contrast, with harmony, with colors, of different sorts. The yin and the yang kind of idea, the idea where you have this balance and it expresses itself in a child, is the idea of like the two opposites that came together and became this incredible new being that can only be described as perfect and love and beauty and the notion of it is like that end of the journey. So that's the idea of the threes that people know, and each set of the midos, people tend to know, or of the sefiros tend to have these three energies. But where people get confused and where Netzach throws people off is, if I were to ask you, the term Netzach literally means eternal. The other literal translation of Netzach is to defeat, to conquer. If you were to take both of those terms and I were to ask you, where does that belong? What mida would you think, the right or the left? The idea of conquering, the idea of fight, or the idea of having to work hard to endure something. Where would you?
Naturally, to me, where it fits, and it's masculinity.
On the masculine side, right. Interesting. So I always thought, go ahead.
Because it's pushing forward. It's still a giving over act.
Okay, good. So you actually guessed one step past, where like I always failed because I went the other way. I always was like, well, Moshe is din. Moshe is like halacha. There's a concept of Yikov Hadin as Sahar, that the like justice will penetrate through the mountain, will destroy anything. It's like it's harsh, right? And the idea of Netzach, of conquering, felt like harsh. It was felt like the opposite of Avraham, right? If anything,
you mean the opposite of Moshe?
I'm sorry. That Moshe is the opposite of Avraham. Meaning, Avram was the male, was the idea of chesed, and Moshe, I would have thought it was the idea of harshness, of strength, of power. Like you have all these, stories with the Makos also, that he brought out, he was the hand of God, he was the representation in the world that was bringing this out. And had I thought about Aaron, right? Aaron is the one who is number 5, is the idea of Hod. I would have thought of Aaron as the one who's more associated with Avram. I would have.
Yes.
Because it's love, kindness, right?
So your question was on Netzach.
Right.
If you had specified you're talking about Moshe and Aaron, where they fit, I agree.
Right. So with Moshe and Aaron, you see the question, right?
Yes.
So with Netzach, I used to think, I thought the same thing also, and I couldn't align it up. And I'll give you, I'm going to explain to you another process of three that we have to go through in order to understand how it fits. So think like this. In terms of Kabbalah, in terms of sefiros, there's a set of terminology that's used to go through these three, to go through the groups of three. So just like three has right, left, and center, there are the groups of three. There's three groups of three. Malchus is its own thing. We'll talk about Malchus afterwards. But the 9 sefiros, they're groups of three. The first group is the term for it would be muskal, would be haskala, which is like the mind. The second set is called murgash, felt. It's the emotions, it's the heart. And then the last part, it's an interesting term, but the last three are called mutba, which means like, teva literally means nature. It's like the things that are ingrained in you as automatic. It's kind of like the idea of like, of your, when you wake up in the morning, if you're on autopilot for the day, and I were to remove your brain, right, or just remove the coffee from your brain, right? Like that's called mutba. It's the experience of how you just go about everything that's around you. It's not without the thought, without the heart. We can align them, and the idea is to take from the top and to push it in. But the idea of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod are going to be in the world of what's happening down below, outside.
Are you saying it is the conditioned responses?
Yes, that would be like if you were to translate the word mutba, it's like that, like conditioned. It's the passive term for teva, for your natural self. It's an interesting term, right?
Which makes sense because there's so much of the pre-programmed natural response to everything in the world that as a Jew, I guess it's everyone, we're tasked with totally flipping 180 degrees.
Right.
Like, there's a natural response to be selfish and we're supposed to be selfless.
Sure.
There's natural response to, only focus on other people's negative qualities and our positive qualities, and we're supposed to flip that.
Right.
You go on and on and on. It's just like, so basically that's what we're referring to here. And
yes.
It sort of leads into this idea of where our task is at hand. Is you get the intellect to guide the emotions to change all of this internal behavior.
Right. Right. If what you're doing is it's very intuitive. What you're doing is you're taking the concept of mind, heart, action, so to speak.
Yes.
And what you're doing is you're jumping and you're saying, well, if I want to use this to align myself, right, then I would start from the top and go down, right? I'd go from the world of ratzon, of keter, of chachma, being in my mind to direct it, and then let that affect my emotions even. The way the Baal Tanya describes it is that, your neshama lives in your mind, and through the mind, through meditating on things like love, love of God, or meditating on the greatness of God or on Torah. So it'll move it'll direct the Yetzer HaTov and the neshama to move into the heart. The left ventricle of the heart is where the Yetzer Hara lives, which could be its own share. But the idea is you're going to move the Torah if you put that first and drive it into your heart. So you could take the idea of thinking and meditating on all the gifts from God, and all of a sudden it causes you to love Him. The Yetzer Hara, which lives in the heart, it's the drive and the passion for things. So if it's overwhelmed by love, but the love is for God, so all of a sudden your Yetzer Hara is your biggest power, because it's the drive to go way outside yourself, to pump the whole body with energy to do something, to get the steroids into the body, in fact, when the Yetzer Hara was created in the Torah, so God describes man. When He creates him, He says that He saw that man was tov, me'od, very good. Everything else is good. Man was tov me'od. Rashi says, what's tov? Tov is the Yetzer. Tov, Me'od, a lot, very, is the Yetzer Hara. And Me'od is the power of more, the power of very, of expansion of something, of being able to move more. So taking Chachma first, if you take the idea of wisdom and plug it into the heart, so the heart all of a sudden becomes this tool, this vehicle for power, right? We talked about last week the Merkava. You're turning your body, which has the engine, right? It has like the 8-cylinder, 150 horsepower, like Mustang, like body that clearly could also be a Yetzer Hara. You could drive it to Vegas, but at the same time, if it's revved up for mitzvahs, so that's the heart. So then it's going to powerfully drive, and it's going to change action.
Right.
So mutba, which is the last stage, which is one of the terms that's used a lot for Netzach, Chod, and Yesod, is going to be the idea of like what you were saying was taking the mind and driving it through into action. Right.
Because the emotions don't seem like a permanent. Meaning your intellect can drive your emotions to feel a certain way, but the next day you can emote differently based off, well, I guess whether you're listening to the Yetzer Hara.
No, you're absolutely right.
Right? So, but when you can, which gets back to the whole goal of the Jew again, is that we're here to elevate the guf, the physical body.
Yeah.
That's our task.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, there's actually one more step to it, but yes, that is what we're talking about. Okay. Before the last step, I'm going to just parenthetically point something out that we mentioned in a different share, but just to show where it applies here, is you said something very important, the idea that we emote differently all the time. The truth is we do everything differently, but emote differently is the thing that is very, very clear to us, right? Like the way that we act and the way that we think tend to be fairly consistent, right? Like the idea of how you think and process something, we can grow, but there's a nature to it. The way that you act tends to be fairly consistent. The way that you feel is the thing that gets thrown all over the place, right? That notion of being thrown all over the place is actually the experience of man in the world. The Chagat, which is Chassid, Gvur, Tiferes, are the midos that we tend to really relate to because they're the ones that we feel. We live in our feelings mostly. Yeah. People try to conquer that, and there's different. Some people live more in their actions, but like the idea of just getting fired up or angry or happy or loving, that's really how we define self a lot in those feelings. And so when you shift through the world, what you don't always see is that you live in a kaleidoscope, a spiritual kaleidoscope, where there are constantly three things that are moving. There's you, it's called nefesh, and the nefesh specifically is you with all these different traits, these sefiros, all these different pieces of you that are like being highlighted, but they're being pushed and affected by two other things. They're being affected by zman, which is time, and makom, which is space. And so the world around you is constantly affecting you and your emotions and your feelings. And so what it's doing is it's evoking a question mark of how do I interact at this moment? And what you're really doing is that there's a unique synergy of these three energies of time, space, and self that are so significant because it has a unique barcode, so to speak, that will never ever be come back again. It's an eternal existence of that soul, that place, and that time that needed to be there exactly at every moment of your life, and it adds incredible significance to it. The feelings is you're being evoked by it. There's things from all those three that are pushing you, and sometimes it's you flow with it, sometimes you're conquering it, but there's an awareness of doing this means that that moment is supposed to be elevated. And the most simple way to elevate those moments, if you're ever in a place where you don't know what to do next, right? When you're ever in a place where you're being thrown around, or you're experiencing this idea of this flow, and I don't know what to do. I'm put in this place, I'm put in this time, and put with me. And somehow these skills or this me doesn't know how to elevate this moment, right? So the most potent, simple thing that we do is we daven. What does davening do? So we say in Adon Olam, we say a beautiful line. We say that I'm sorry. Minas, okay, right. Minas kosi b'yom. Sorry. That I call out to God, and He is the portion of my cup when I call Him. Minas kosi b'yom. The secret to tefillah, we think we're asking God for help and for things. The thing that you get every single time you daven is God. The portion of my cup when I call out to God is God Himself. So you're taking Him and impregnating the moment with godliness. Where that's going to go, how it's going to go, you don't know. But you're roping Hashem into those moments. It's an incredible tool. Rav Shlomo Wolbe even says by tefillah, that every single moment of your life, that you daven, and you daven 3 times a day, is you're constantly taking your new situations and roping that to God, so that every single part of you, every portion, every moment, everything that's you has now learned how to be roped to God, has now been elevated and connected to God, even in your darkest places and in your days that you hate. We're going to go right into Netzach. I know I'm like, right. It's long, but
the whole idea, I think what you're suggesting is that the davening is all about asking, when we don't know what to do in these situations, is we're praying to let Hashem guide us on making His will our will.
Yes.
Is that another way of saying this?
Yeah, I mean, you could daven for other things as well, but yes, if you pull Hashem in, right, so there is that element, like you're saying, that automatically you're saying, Hashem, I know whatever is supposed to happen is going to be best. That's true. But there's more to it, is that, like, Hashem, Ba'asher Husham, in the situation that I'm in right now, I don't have the skill set, or this nefesh doesn't know how to interact with this man and this makom. But once you're here, it can happen. Something's going to happen. Sometimes I'll see it in a revealed way, sometimes it won't. But the conclusion of this experience, when God's here, is that I win. Okay.
Another note, I think it's important, I want to emphasize this idea too, that as you brought the Yetzer Hara, that the goal is not to destroy the Yetzer Hara. The goal is to love Hashem with both our hearts.
Right.
The Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov. So the goal is to channel the Yetzer Hara in productive purposes in the service of Hashem.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's a lot of the jet fuel that we can actually use in that
100%.
service.
I like that you said jet fuel, right? It's exactly that. It's where we move from into turbo speed.
Right. So like I said, a lot of our parnassus sort of really flows through as a result of our life. We just sort of maybe get in the way a lot. But I read this idea the other day that we use the Yetzer Hara because we say, look, let's go make a lot of money so we can provide for our family.
100%.
Then the Yetzer Hara's like, yeah, let's do it. It's like it's on board on that. And Hashem's like, yeah, let's you're right, because you're asking to receive to give.
Yes.
And now everyone's in alignment. And I think that's an idea that I'm sure we'll feed in more as we get to Netzach and Hod.
That's actually the perfect feed into Netzach. Do you see how we've already done so much, like how this has been such a big review of everything already?
Yeah.
So you're going to see why that's actually critical to really understand Netzach. Both the 1, 2, 3 energy of right, left, and center, and then the idea of mind, emotion, how emotion becomes this tool of this being thrown around and having to pull God in. And then there's then we move into Netzach. We move into Mutbah. So we said it's Teva's action. The part that we didn't explain yet, or that we didn't move to, is that when the part of the body that the Kabbalists describe for what's called Nehi, Nun Hey Yod Netzach Hod Yesod, is the lower spheres, is below the hips. Your right leg is Netzach. Your left leg is Hod. And the way that the Zohar, the way that the Kabbalists explain it, is Trei Palge de Gufa, is the 2 halves of the body. And so the idea is it's really actually very hard to live with one without the other. They're critical. I'll explain it in what we do, and you'll see how it applies. my right side is my strength. My regel, my foot, is what takes me places. But I can't, as strong as the right side is, I can't take a second step without the left. The two of them together are going to be what's going to allow me to walk. Why is walking important? Well, walking is, and by the way, if you note, in Shema Esrei, Malachim only have one foot.
That's exactly what I was going to
Man is two.
get to. That we,
Right.
we put our feet together during Kadosh for this very reason. And I think the reason is because they don't have the struggle of having two opposing drives within them as we do.
Right. They're right. Those two sides, which are opposing, are also critical for moving forward. It's a paradox, but the paradox is what allows movement. So Shemona Esrei, right, or davening, is when we are in the world of the leiv, right? It's the avot of the leiv. We actually, the minhag for Hasidim to put on a gartel is actually halacha. It's just that you need something to separate the heart from the lower spheres.
Explain
what a gartel is.
Yes,
sure. So first, the halacha is that your heart is supposed to be separate from your erva, from the nude parts of the body. And it used to be we'd just wear like cloaks. So if you didn't have a belt that you would tie to the cloak, then your heart would see your erva, so to speak. What's happening is that your heart needs to be separated from the lower body. What you'll see, especially in the Hasidic world, is there's a piece of garb called a gartel, which is like these like black, or some people have white ones. They're like these belts that they wrap around their waist and they pull them tight. Right, it's a karate belt with the little tassel at the end. But really, like even wearing like a belt or a pair of underpants, like from a halachic standpoint, works. And even for Hasidim, I've spoken to those. If you're ever in a situation where you don't have anything else, you just tighten you can technically use your belt as your gartel.
Okay. So that's interesting. So this is halakha. It's just that some don't actually get a gartel because we actually.
It's not necessary, right? From a halachic standpoint, it's not necessary because you already have it. Pants do.
The idea is that we're compartmentalizing the upper half and the lower half.
Right. You're not moving when you're davening. You want to be like an angel. You want to be in the world of the heart, but. Afterwards, you remove the gartel, so to speak, right? You now go into the world of the legs. The legs are what moves you places. It's what allows you to go out into the world. And so what's significant here is that we explained the idea of action, but what we didn't explain is that Netzach is not just action; it's action into the world. It's affecting the rest of the world.